I think I explained this to Tom the other day. When the bug first hit me for theater, I think I was 7 years old. And I recall that I did a crazy kind of play about a newspaper man in a newsprint shirt who got rolled up in the newspaper press. And the playmate I had actually made up the scenario that saved my life, and that was my first experience at 7.
Well, I think I first got the bug for theater when I was in 5th grade. They had a talent contest, and I was very shy at the time, and I got up there in a clown outfit that our family had someone in every Halloween, and I did some crazy contortionist act where I put my legs behind my back, and everybody just screamed, and I went, oh, there's a way to get some attention.
I think for me, it was opportunities in music more than theater. When I got into junior high, by that time I had started playing a string instrument, the cello. I was in choir, and then it was the high school musicals. They got me involved indirectly in theater, and then some speech classes that got me involved and kept me going. So more so it was really being involved in high school music as much as anything.
Yeah, when I was in school, I found almost any way I could to get into theater. It was easy because someone said to me, why don't you try out for the school musical? And I did. And then other people saying, well, there's this thing going on here in the community theater, try this. And I'd go over and audition and often get it because they were desperate for anybody to take the role. And just that kind of networking, I picked up and patchworked together a theater mini career.
As I said, I started out as a broadcasting major, which is what I wanted to do. If somebody would have told me I was going to be a college instructor, I would have said, what planet are you coming from? That's not anything in my future. But while I was at Eastern Kentucky, I had to take on an English minor. I had a very traditional theater department that made you, literally coerced you to have an English minor. And while I was doing that, I had some issues with English composition, and I went to an English lab. Learned quite quickly that I had a lot of strengths. I just had to polish them, and made friends, and they drafted me as an instructor in that lab after I'd got my skills back up. And that was my first experience in, rather than teaching a few music things, that I could make a difference formally as a teacher to a learner, and I think that started that. So that would have been about 1974. But I think if the question is what really guided me to being a teacher, I think part of it was being an out-of-work actor, and I had done some teaching in some short stints in summer programs at different colleges, mostly teaching fundamentals of drama and acting. And I was in the state capital of Florida in Tallahassee, and I got a call from the dean of school at Florida State who said, well, I understand you need some time off, but you can't take it off. I want you to go to a job interview, take your resume, wear a tie. They need a full-time drama director who can teach English at Tallahassee Leon High School. And so that was my first real full-time job. And I walked into a program where a teacher had been burnt out after 7 years. It was already set up for me. I had a Drama Boosters Club, so I had a lot of support. And I look back now, and it was one of the best jobs I ever had in teaching English and drama.
Well, I was a psych major, did a lot of weird and interesting jobs, but then I got into mental health work, and I ran group homes. First, I was just a grunt in a group home, and worked my way up into management and then administration, to the point where I was overseeing 12 group homes and all these people and all that, and I realized I was desperately unhappy. And burnout's kind of a simple way to put it, but I was just done with it. And I was at a Christmas party talking to a friend of mine who's a performer, he's a singer, and I told him my dilemma. He says, well, I work for this company that tours educational programs all over the United States. You might want to give him a call. So I just said, why not? And I gave him a call, and he says, well, yeah, we get ready for next year, and we'll give you a call in May or June. I said, oh, okay. Then I got a call back in 10 minutes. He says, I forgot. We just had somebody quit on us. And after Christmas, we have to have this program done on the East Coast. And can you do it? And all the logistics. And I said, why not? And I tried it, and it was, well, there's a lot of good stories there at the beginning of my career, but it was Our World of Robotics. I ended up touring that for 8 years, full-time all over the United States.
Since 1980, I have evolved and been doing the one-person show on Ulysses S. Grant. Have taken it and toured it to different entities, libraries, museums, schools, some big theaters in the Southeast, as well as the National Park Service. So it just was put on the back burner for about roughly 20 years while I was doing more serious full-time directing and teaching in college. And I never wanted to go back to it. I just put it all in the garage and said, someday I'm going to sell that at a garage sale, get rid of that whole thing, because I would really just like to, go off into the sunset as a college theater director. Well, then when the time came, I picked it up again, and I appreciated it even more. I had new insights, and it did need a vehicle to keep going as a professional actor. So I was going right along with it, and then I ran into this gentleman at a sesquicentennial Civil War festival. I think it was, is it in Andover? Is that where we were?
Yeah. Andover,
so
Illinois.
You want to take it over from there?
Well, yeah, I had been doing Lincoln for a while, and I also do Mark Twain and Thomas Edison for this company that was touring the United States. So I had them all in my hip pocket, and we're always looking for work. And someone saw me in a community play, actually, and asked me to be walk around as Lincoln at this event, which I'll probably never do again because it was the middle of summer and it was about 175 degrees, something like that. Anyway, we were both walking around and we were both getting a drink and taking a break, and I saw him across the way. And actually, I've always had a dream of doing a show that would combine Mark Twain and U.S. Grant, and that's a long story. But anyway, that's what I presented to him, and then we talked about what we could do, and we said, well, this we can put up a little easier, probably be a little more commercially viable. So then we just talked it out, and we had a meeting, and he's all organization, from his years and years of organizing the drama. So I just kind of sit back and let him do all that, and that really helped me to be able to just get to the parts that I'm good at and the things that I like to do. So we just worked it out. I have a one-man show, he had one, and we took bits and pieces of each and matched them up in ways and said, oh, that's interesting. It's like almost like a puzzle pieces or something. It was an interesting way we just put these together and said, this is going to work.
Well, he immediately recognized his savior. Well, you probably would have recognized the name. It's a very famous actor, Edwin Booth. Just an example of the divine mystery, Nicolay.
My first encounter in the Civil War involved the rebel forces of Colonel Thomas Harris. My men were disciplined and ready for...
My mom is great. She makes...
Well, my nutshell answer is my dad said, you're crazy, I don't want you to do this. What are you going to be able to do? How are you going to be able to have a family as an actor? Because I assume that's all you're going to do. He didn't think about directing. He didn't think about maybe design, although he was a draftsman. But as far as support was, he simply said, look, if you can find a way to finance it, we'll match half. As long as it's a formal education and you have a degree and you can become something and you just stay at it till you get that done, then I wish you well. And talking to Tom the other day, I mean, he was so supportive. Like I said, he was a draftsman. He designed these set pieces that we're using in Lincoln and Grant tonight. They still follow me. And that's my dad's influence. To just stay with it was his main value. Even if he didn't have the same principles that I had about the discovery of theater, he said, just stay with it. That's all I want you to do.
Well, I came to acting late as a profession. I did a lot of acting in community and amateur work. So my parents were out of the picture by the time I became a full-time actor. So it was, my folks were very supportive. Almost anything I tried, part of that was at the beginning because they really wanted to encourage me, and at the other point they said I was going to do it anyway. We might as well be supportive. My kids are grown now, and my daughter actually has a degree in therapy, drama therapy. So I think I influenced her a little bit. So she's very supportive. She's not around me, but we talk a lot on the phone and so forth. And my wife, bless her heart, to pay the bills, because there's other things you have to do. I have a business of reselling things on the internet, and there was a time when I got on the road and she'd be in the basement freezing in the middle of winter with gloves on trying to tape boxes to ship off my stuff for me. So on that way she has been extremely supportive, and she understands, and she says, when you're happy, I'm happy, and I understand that if you're not doing what's important to you, that we all suffer, and I want to support you in that.
when I got married, my wife understood, because I was an adoptive father. I inherited a nice set of kids, and they went on, that this was going to be part of Dad. He's a teaching artist, and he's going to be teaching and acting. My kids got into plays, and it was very natural for them. We had a lot of fun with them. Sometimes when I needed a second shepherd for the second shepherd's play, I called on my son, and he was